Welcome to The Human Experience, a podcast about the stories we live out every day and the importance of championing the vulnerability and courage of the storyteller. I'm your host, Jennifer Peterkin, and it was through my own lived story of experiencing domestic violence that this podcast was created. By traveling the globe and interviewing each guest in person, I am convinced now more than ever that stories have the power to change the world. You can join our community of storytellers by subscribing, leaving a rating and review, signing up for my newsletter, following me on Instagram, and more. Thank you for being here. In a world full of noise, to listen with intention is an act of resistance. Episode 74 of The Human Experience is Laurel's story. Laurel is the kind of person who, upon meeting her, you instantly want to be friends with. Gregarious, funny, energetic, and smart, she's fun to be around and easy to talk to. You would never be able to guess at the obstacles and trauma that she has overcome. Laurel's childhood was marked by foster care, adoption, and constant upheaval. But true to her character, even as a child, Laurel always found a way to fit in wherever she was. From being raised by two moms in Florida in the 1980s to being adopted by a conservative evangelical family in Pennsylvania and everything in between, adaptability has been a survival skill for Laurel throughout her life. But even with all that she has walked through, Laurel is candid about her life, and remarkably without bitterness. Her story is one of resilience, self-discovery, and the power of maintaining an open and compassionate perspective despite the adversity she faced. We may never know what others have overcome in their lives that has shaped them into the people they have become. The human experience is extending compassion and understanding when people fall short. But it's also acknowledging the courage and perseverance woven throughout the stories of those around us. A brief content warning before we begin. This episode contains conversations around foster care, adoption, and divorce. Please proceed with care. This episode was recorded in Glenmore, Pennsylvania. Laurel.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
So we're at your house in Glenmore.
We are.
In Pennsylvania. I'm back home through the end of the year. And we met earlier this year, actually, through a mutual friend. And I'm so happy that we did because you're hilarious. And I've loved getting to know you on a very small scale, but I'm really excited to hear your story. So, and this friend actually was the one who said, you have to interview Laurel if she will agree to do it because she has an incredible story. So, no pressure.
Shout out to said friend.
Yeah, right?
I know who you are. No pressure. I did agree. I did.
Well, this isn't your first time ever telling your story, right?
This is my first time recording.
Okay.
Actually, that's not true. I went away with my high school best friend. She's probably like my oldest friend. And we actually went away a couple of months ago and she had never heard my whole story. So she asked me to tell her and I just decided to record it. And I just thought to myself, like, I've told the story so many times. I've never really told it to my kids. And so I just thought to myself, like, it's somewhere now.
Yeah.
If, if anything happened to me or whatever. So that was the only time. But it's funny. My whole life, people keep telling me I should write a book. So I've thought about it. It's something I've toyed with doing. And so I've started recording different conversations I have with people in case I ever do that.
Yeah.
So
I love that. And I love the idea of just not letting your story be forgotten because it is important.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, especially because of my story and the way I grew up and my sort of lack of roots in a lot of ways, I just wanted my kids to to know it and to have it and to just listen to it and laugh at their crazy mom.
No, it's special because I think, we don't realize what we have until it's gone. As cliche as that saying is, it is true. We don't realize the questions we aren't asking of people until we can't ask any more questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's why I've started recording stuff. My mom's came into town a couple weeks ago and we just sat and talked through stuff and I recorded it. It was like 3 hours of conversation and even just like childhood stories. Like even as a parent now, how many things I have forgotten about my kids. Like they'll bring stuff up and I'll be like, I did that. I said that. I said that. It sounds like me, but like life is so busy and it's so full and you forget so many things. So
yeah, absolutely. And it also, I think, speaks to memory. Like what some of us ascribe to our memory is not what other people do, right? So I'm sure there's things in childhood that you remember, or your kids' childhood that you remember that they wouldn't, because it wasn't important to them for whatever reason, but these things that they remember were just really marking in some way. So it's interesting.
Yeah. And how we remember stuff, right? Like I think the same people can have a shared lived experience and tell that story two very different ways.
Well, that's very true.
So yeah,
that's very true. Okay. So let's get into your story and not story in general, but let's start from the beginning. So Laurel was born. That is where we're starting.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's probably the best place to start.
I love it. Yeah. Let's go.
So I was born in a long, long time ago. And
in a galaxy far, far away.
Far away, yes. And when I was born, my biological dad was born in 1922. So he was 59 when I was born. So 1922. I mean, we have grandparents that aren't that old.
Yeah.
So he died when I was 1, I think from cancer, from smoking. And I lived with my biological mom at the time, and her name is Glow. Her name's Gloria. We call her Glow. And my biological sister, Chloe. So Chloe and I share the same mom. We have different dads. So anyways, my dad died at 1. He was actually the one that was taking care of Chloe and I. So when I was 2, we were both put into the foster care system. I was 2, Chloe was 3, and our mom just could not take care of us. And because I think context is really important in people's lives, Glow was actually also adopted when she was born. And she had childhood epilepsy. And so back then, when people had epilepsy, they would just heavily sedate them and drug them. So she just grew up really heavily drugged and, I think just was never able to really fully function at full emotional capacity, really at any capacity at that point. So when Chloe and I were 2 and 3, we were put into foster care. And from the time I was 2 till I was 6, I moved around into different foster homes. Now, Chloe was with me for a little bit, and I don't want to share too much of her story, but I think it's important. But at one point, she had very bad asthma as a child and would get really, really sick. And so at one point, some of these details are a little fuzzy. She went back to live with Glow. Now, Glow lived in Philly at the time, and I would say that Chloe going back to live with Glow was detrimental to Chloe's growth. So she lived there till she was about 5, and Glow just wasn't capable of being a mom. I don't know if she ever wanted to be a mom, but she just wasn't capable of being a mom. We'll leave it at that. So Glow, like I said, had been adopted into a family when she was a baby, and she had a sister named Claire, and she was adopted into Claire's family because these were Claire's biological parents. Okay. Still tracking?
I'm following you.
And Claire lived in Florida at the time with her girlfriend, Rita. So this was like early 80s gay people in Florida. So definitely a very controversial time. But anyway, and I don't think Claire and her partner, Rita, were looking to be parents. But when Chloe was 5, Glow just couldn't take care of her anymore. And I think, she had asked if Claire and Rita, asked if she could take her for the summer. And Claire was basically like, we're not going to take her for the summer. We're going to take her for good. And so Glow was like, okay. And so Chloe at that point went to live in Florida with Claire and Rita. And that is where Chloe lived for the rest of her life. Like
oh, wow.
she's I made that sound like she was dead.
You did. That was going to be my next question.
She still lives there.
Okay.
She's still in Florida. But that was her home.
Yeah,
She lived there.
She didn't
Rita
move
were her
around
moms.
anymore.
She did not move around anymore. So that was her home. And which is really ultimately a good thing for her.
Okay,
I mean,
good.
I think Chloe, I'm not here to speak to her story, but she's got enough of her own trauma and stuff to deal with. But she lived with Claire and Rita. Those are her moms. And that was great for her. So,
Yeah.
So I still lived up here and not entirely sure why. And I feel like sort of going back to talking about asking questions when you had the chance. I moved around a lot in a lot of different foster homes between 2 and 6. And 2 of them I remember vividly. And I mean, I feel like I'm fortunate enough to say that like I didn't necessarily have bad experiences in any of these foster homes. I feel like people have this idea of horrible things happening and I don't have that experience, thankfully. At least I don't remember it, but I'm an Enneagram 7, so Lord only knows. But again, going back to questions you wish you'd asked, like I wish I had asked my dad, like my adopted dad, sort of like why I moved around so much. And I don't know that I would have gotten an answer, but just definitely one of those questions that I feel like will sort of plague me.
Sure.
And I feel like I could ask my mom, but I feel like he probably would have been more of the keeper of that answer. But so anyways, so Chloe is in Florida with Claire and Rita. Glow is somewhere. And I am in Jenkintown, Pennsylvania, in this foster home with the Rosses. And when I am 6 years old, oh, hold on, big detail. So I was born Laurel Stacy Craig. That was my birth name.
Okay.
But for some reason, I was always called Stacy.
Oh.
Yeah. So when I was 9 years old, I learned that my real first name was Laurel. So I made everybody change and call me that, which was great because when I finally got married, Stacy Swanson would have been a complete stripper name. So it's a good thing we went back to Laurel. But anyway, so at the time, I'm still Stacy and and I'm living at the Rosses in Abington, where I was living. So
And this is a foster home?
this is my foster home. So also totally random side note and like stories we tell ourselves. But my dad, who was born in 1922, you might not know who these people are, but there's a comedy team called Laurel and Hardy. It's like similar to Abbott and Costello.
Okay.
But they were really big in his generation, in 1920s, 30s. And his name is Stan. And it's Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy. So I've always told myself that he named me after the comedy duo Laurel and Hardy.
There you
which
go.
is why I'm so funny. But
I like it.
yeah. So,
I follow that.
yeah. That's what I think. I think that there is some validity to it.
Yeah.
But I could totally just be making that up.
We're going to go with it because
Yeah.
he's not here to say otherwise.
To refute that.
So.
Exactly. So anyways, 6 years old, get back on track.
You're good.
And I'm in this foster home and they want to adopt me. And according to them, I also want to be adopted by them. So much so that I was willing to change my name at the time. So both my mom and my sister in that home, my mom is like Donna Marie and my older sister is Jody Marie. So I wanted to be Stacy Marie. Ugh. Yeah. Ugh. Stacy Swanson. Anyways, so, and I feel like whether this is like actually parallel timing or not, I don't know. Chloe's in Florida, right? With Claire and Rita. And Claire and Rita don't know that I exist. So they don't know that Glow had this other daughter. I think after Chloe was born, Claire and Glow stopped talking. I think because Claire was so mad
Oh, wow.
that Glow got pregnant and kept this child and blah, blah, blah. So I exist. Chloe knows I exist because we spent time in foster care together. So she apparently is down in Florida telling Claire and Rita, I want my sister and I'm not like, you need to bring her down here. And they're like, we don't know what you're talking about. And she is like adamant. She is like fighting that she is not going to do life without her sister. And we have this this thing. So back in the day, back when we were younger, there was this movie called An American Tale, and it's about this little mouse named Feifel.
Yes.
And there's the song in it. What is the song? Somewhere Out There, right? And Chloe, I knew I was going to cry at some point. Chloe would sit and sing that to me because she just wanted her sister so badly. So I think Claire and Rita are sort of looking into like, who is this sister you speak of? At the same time, my parents up here decide that they want to adopt me. Now, in Pennsylvania at the time, there are closed adoption laws, which means once you're adopted, you can have no contact with your biological family. Parents can't have contact with the kids, vice versa, until you're 18. Now, total sidebar here, speaking solely from a adoptee foster care child, I completely agree with that. I don't understand all of these open adoption laws. I don't know how, as a child, you're supposed to be able to reconcile, these are my birth parents, these are my adopted parents. Like, just all of it to me is just so heavy. And that's has nothing to do with any of this other than the fact that, like, anyways. So they have these closed adoption laws. So Glo won't sign the papers because she's like, I won't get to see her again.
And at that point, had you seen her since you've been in foster care?
I don't remember seeing her, but I have pictures, right? So Chloe and I have pictures of us like at a mall, spending time with Glo and her grandfather. So I think that there were like supervised visitations. I don't remember them, but there's proof that they exist.
Yeah.
So, but like, to be honest with you, like, and we'll get there in a second, but like, I didn't really remember Chloe either. Like, she's down in Florida being like, I want my sister. I'm not, not without my sister. And I don't know how much I remember of her at that time. So this is I would say to me, this is like the biggest mystery in my life. But I'm 6 years old. My parents want to adopt me. Glo won't sign the papers. So I end up going to Florida. Now, anybody who knows me and has heard me tell this story has heard me speak about this day. But when I was 6 years old, I got put on a train by myself with this social worker woman and her son that I had never met before. And I got sent to Florida to live with Chloe and Claire and Rita. I have no idea if there was a conversation that precedes showing up at this train station. But let me tell you, Jen, there is not a day in my life that I remember more vividly than that day on the train. And years ago, I got roped into going to this writing workshop. And it was like a whole weekend thing. And we weren't allowed to leave.
That's very important.
Until we produced an entire piece. I mean, maybe it wasn't that hard and fast line, but it felt like it.
Okay.
So we did like all of these exercises like Friday night and Saturday. And then Sunday, you basically were like, go write something. And then you had to share it with the group.
Oh, wow.
I wrote this piece about that day at 6 years old on that train, and it poured out of me. I had no idea it was in there. I had no idea, like, it just was like wildly cathartic. And I didn't even know. I didn't know I needed to do that. I didn't want to go to this workshop.
Yeah.
I got roped into it because I can't say no.
And you know everybody.
Because I'm a people pleaser, as you're learning. But yeah, I remember writing about this day where I remember being at the train. And I remember it was this large Black woman and her son. I couldn't tell you her name. I couldn't tell you anything else about them. And I just got put on this train. And I remember sitting in the train looking out the window. My mom was crying, who I thought was going to be my adopted mom. 24 hours later, I arrive in Florida to my sister, who I don't remember.
Wow.
And my new moms.
Wow. Oh, my goodness.
And, when the gravity of this day hit me, I've thought a lot about this. When I had kids and my oldest turned 6, So when I think about me at 6 and I think about that day, the 6 I see is huge.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm big and I'm old and I'm mature.
You're so grown up.
So grown up, right? Like when I think back at that, like, yeah, it was a super shitty day and experience and it's seared into my memory. But like, I don't think about this like sweet little child. And when Eleanor turned 6 years old, I remember looking at her and being like, holy cow, 6 is so little.
Yeah.
It's so little. It's so like, I'll tell you right now, if you tried to pry my 6-year-old out of my arms,
Oh, please.
oh my Lord, have mercy. Like on your soul. Right? Like I just,
Yes.
so, I mean, it was definitely interesting when Eleanor turned 6 and I was like, oh my God, 6 is itty bitty to hand you off to a complete stranger and be like, have a nice life.
Right?
Like,
Wow.
so,
Oh my goodness.
yeah. So someday when I write a book, I'll put that piece in there.
Yeah.
But it was a tough day.
I can only imagine. And I truly can't even do that. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely would love to read that piece. So, but it is interesting how we have these moments in our lives. And I think, trauma definitely exacerbates this because the clarity in which you can remember something like that, even if you don't realize you have those memories, like that accessible to you, right? Like it's so incredible how our brains work and incredible. It's heartbreaking too, what our brains kind of hold on to and to protect us and what they let go of to protect us. So yeah, that's so hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was, like I said, I didn't know that was inside of me.
Yeah.
But I think a really interesting theme in my life as I've like reflected on it is how often I just thought everything was normal. Like I have to say, we talk about defense mechanisms and clearly anybody knows me knows my defense mechanism is humor, but also this oblivion that I feel like I was blessed with as a kid and maybe even as an adult, but like how oblivious I was to my reality. Like really, truly, Jen, growing up, I just thought everybody was living the same life as me.
Yeah.
I thought this is normal. I guess everybody takes a pilgrimage when they're 6 and like, whatever. However, I convinced myself. But like, it's so funny looking back on my life now, especially being a mom and be like, yeah, that wasn't normal. Like,
yeah,
but it was my normal.
Yeah.
And it was my reality. And I just kept going. I just kept swimming.
Absolutely. I think I did an interview this summer with a woman who got very ill and lost her vision in like her 30s. And she was talking about how difficult, like it was so different than somebody who had been born without vision.
Sure.
Because at that point, that is your only worldview. You don't have anything else to fall back on to be like, oh, but I used to do things this way. So I imagine, there's some parallel there in that you didn't have any other frame of reference for life. And so this was like, yeah, this is what life is. This is just what everybody has to do.
And like, even as we're talking about now, I'm thinking about how like my only sort of frame of reference would have been Chloe, my sister.
Yeah.
And she's going through her own unique experience. And I guess I just assumed that was normal too. So anyway, 6-year-old Stacy.
Yes.
Still Stacy at the
Yes,
time.
that's right.
Still Stacy.
Still wanting to be Stacey Marie.
Ugh, that was short-lived. Anyways, arrives in Florida, and there's Chloe and Claire and Rita, and I sort of remember arriving, right? I had like maybe a trash bag full of stuff. I had this like teal outfit on that was way too hot for Florida weather, but I don't really remember like the transition. I remember like I got off the train. These were my new people and I went home with them and then I just kept doing life.
Yeah.
And I had said earlier that Claire and Rita were just in town in October. And Claire is this like amazing wealth of knowledge. Like she's one of those people that remembers everything and she's just a phenomenal storyteller. And so I just made her tell me all of these stories. And I just asked her questions and I was like, I don't really remember the transition. And, it didn't sound like there was much. I just sort of, all right, well, this is my new family. So this is where I do life now. Like truly. And
Yeah.
that sounds so silly, but like, I do really think that like, I just adapt. I like become this chameleon. Like, okay, now I have 2 moms and Chloe and a Gus. Who's Gus?
Yes.
Oh, you want to know?
I do want to know. He's not the mouse from Cinderella. I'll tell you that much.
No, it's also not Feifel. But so I arrive in Florida, Tampa. Chloe, Claire, Rita, and Gus. So Claire and Rita both worked in psych hospitals in Florida. And
As
I think
nurses?
like Claire was a nurse. Rita, I don't know, nurse too. Sure. That works. Whatever, like not nurses, but still really responsible people do.
Okay.
Sorry, Rita. Anyways.
Justice for Rita.
Just so we're clear, I just need to give you a quick idea of like Claire and Rita. And Rita is like, you're very much more like butch, lesbian, just she is hands down the nicest human being you've ever met in your life. Do you ever meet somebody and you're like, the world needs more of you and we should clone you?
Absolutely.
That is Rita. And anybody who has ever met Rita, she should be cloned. She was born in Kentucky and she still has this like Southern accent and she calls everybody like hun and she's just adorable. And Claire is her counterpart who is hilarious and slightly neurotic. Sorry, Claire. And is just high energy. And she's more of your lipstick lesbian. And those descriptions will play out. And I tell you a story in a minute. That's why I'm being so detailed. It's pretty funny. But just like truly like wonderful, wonderful human beings. And, I remember like we had gay parents in the 80s, right? It's not nearly as cool as it is today to have gay parents. And back to that whole idea of oblivion, like I used to get made fun of. And I don't know if this was true for Chloe, but I used to have kids make fun of me all the time being like, your parents are lesbians. And I'd be like, no, they're not. I didn't know what a lesbian was. My parents were for sure lesbians and like very obvious lesbians. But I mean, I used to get like tortured in school and I'd be like, and then I remember being like 15 and learning what a lesbian was and be like, oh my God, those kids were right. Like, I mean, like an oblivious kid. And Chloe, on the other hand, Chloe is like my polar opposite.
Oh,
right?
interesting.
Yeah. Like I got all of the personality and she got all of the beauty and the brains.
Okay.
But she is quiet. She is introverted. She is very well thought out. And then there's her like non-filter sister, Laurel. Still Stacy at the time, but
Right.
eventually Laurel. So this is the dynamic. So anyway, so Claire and Rita both working at psych hospitals. And there's this guy, Gus, who is there. He has Alzheimer's and doesn't really have any family or anything. So somehow or another, this was before I got down there, Claire became his power of attorney. He kept running away from the home. So she decided to move him in with them. So Gus is there. Now, I got to give you a couple of Gus stories because you need some
Please do.
context. So he's like 70, sure. And like I said, he has Alzheimer's, used to be in the Navy. And he thought he was still in the Navy. He thought Chloe and I were the like seamen on the ship. He hated us. And some of my favorite Gus stories, we had this mirror. I just need to preface this by like, I'm not making any of this up. Okay. I just need everybody to know. You don't get detail like this without living it. And we had this hallway. And at the end of the hallway was a mirror that went from floor to ceiling. And he would stand there, Jen, for hours and talk to the man in the mirror trying to get it to come out. And he'd be like, come on, you can do it. Just give me your hand. Come on. And so one time Rita walked down there. They're both standing in the mirror. And she's like, Gus, that's you in the mirror. And he's like, that may be, but who's that one? And I like, he used to have this like trucker hat collection. I'm not making this awesome. And again, just thought this was normal. He used to have this like trucker hat collection, and he used to, his room was right there at the end of the hall at the mirror, and he used to poke his head out with his hat on and be like, sure is a nice hat you got there. I wish I had one that nice. I mean, he was the best. I mean, everybody should have had a Gus. He used to go outside by the pool, and he would like, you know, you'd have like inflatable pool animals, and he would take a broom and like herd them all to one side of the pool. And then when one would get out, he'd run around and like herd them back. I mean, he was something else. And I guess one time he came out of his room in a hot pink mini skirt. And that was all he was wearing. And they were like, Gus, what are you doing? And he's like, well, it was in my drawer. Like, just. So, Florida, Chloe, Claire, Rita, Gus. I mean, I'd come home from school and I'd be like, hey, Gus, I missed you. And he'd be like, must have been a pretty poor shot. Amazing. He was amazing. Again, looking back, this wasn't normal, but this was normal. So
it honestly sounds like a pilot for a 90s sitcom.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. I often think, like, who would I want to play me? Meryl Streep would play Claire, just hands down. There's no doubt about it.
Well, that gave me a fantastic visual.
Oh, for sure. She would knock it out of the park. So I spent the next 4 years with this cast of characters who are just such wonderful human beings. But during that time, Claire and Rita, they were both alcoholics. And so I would say like 2 years into living there, they both decided to get sober, but they just couldn't get sober together. So they split up, which just destroyed Chloe and I. We used to go to camp every summer for like 3 weeks. And I remember, I know Chloe does too, vividly coming home from camp and them telling us that they were going to split up. And just we sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. So they split up and Chloe and I stayed with Claire, and it was hard. It was rough. I was not an easy kid. I have learned about myself that I really like boundaries and I need boundaries. I really love to push my boundaries, but I like to know, you know, where they exist. And in Florida, I mean, we were just latchkey kids. I mean, again, Claire and Rita didn't have intentions of being parents, and now they have these 2 daughters, and you know, they were doing the best they could, you know. And I feel like that's like a theme in my life with like showing grace to people. Like, you're doing the best you can with what you were given. And they were. But Claire and I really butted heads a lot. I think she would agree, even to this day, we're just 2 very strong personalities, very strong personalities. And so I was a horrible kid. I was horrible. I was such a bad kid down there. I used to steal. I would run away. I threw temper tantrums, like full on temper tantrums, like a 9-year-old throwing herself on the floor. Like it was not good. So I actually went to live with Rita for a while. Chloe stayed with Claire. And I mean, that was just so stressful. Rita, we joke about this because we were so broke. I mean, just so broke. And I just have this capacity for only remembering the positive things in life. It's just who I am. I'm very good at only remembering the positive. So like Rita and I will talk about those like living, and I'd be like, man, they were good times. And she would be like, good times. She's like, I wanted to kill you. We were sitting on milk crates as furniture. We had nothing to eat and you were running away. Like, I almost killed you. And I was like, yeah, it was such a good time. And it's really cute because when they were up here last, she's like, I still have that milk crate and I saved it for you.
Aww.
And I just can't wait to have it because it just is such like a visual of like my childhood and my life. It's pretty cool. So I'm trying to think if there are any other great Florida stories. Oh, we did have, this will eventually be the title of my book, but we did have a tornado come through and hit our house and took off like the back half of our house. And we made the front page of the paper. Like, they have it framed down there. And so at 2:00 in the morning, and this gonna be, we had to get into a closet under the steps. So I always joke that we had to get like 2 girls, 2 gays, and a Gus in the closet. at 2 a.m.
I cannot wait to read this book.
And our cats. And our cats, of course, were named Carl Sagan and Mahatma Gandhi.
Of course they were.
Of course they were. Naturally. And again, like those 4 years were so tumultuous. Like I know that they were tumultuous. I know, like Chloe, right? We were talking about how Chloe could not wait for her sister to come down there. Like that was all she wanted. And I was there like a week and she was like, send her back. I mean, because like I came in with this like personality that just was like, just overshadowing, overbearing. I was loud. Like, it was so funny talking to Claire. They were like, you were so loud and you were so horrible. Like, and they say it with such love and I hear it with love, but they were like, you were like off the walls. Like, you were nuts. You were high energy. You were loud. Nobody could control you or contain you. And I was like, me? No, that was Stacy. That wasn't Laurel.
Couldn't be Laurel.
No. So also while I was down there, when I was like 9, I had to do a project for school or something. That's when I discovered that my real first name was Laurel when I was living in Florida. Laurel, Stacy, Craig. And so I was like, I think you should all just call me Laurel now, which was not an easy, like, I can't imagine my kid just being like, changing my name today and me being like, oh, how do I remember that?
Yeah.
But I did. And so anyway, so when I was 10, I'd been there for 4 years. And I just want to say that, like, those were the 4 most pivotal years in my life. They were hard. And I don't think I realized how pivotal they were until I got older. But I mean, first of all, just of my entire life, I lived with Chloe for 4 years, my sister, you know what I mean? And like, she is, before I had my own kids, like she is the extent of my biological family. I mean, there's Glow, we're Glow, but, which is fine. But like, there's Chloe and that's it. You know what I mean? And so it's so interesting to me how many times I've told my story to people, like, don't you just wish you were adopted when you were 6 and you didn't have to go through that? And no, absolutely not. And I think, you know, my adopted parents are great, and we'll get to them in a minute. But Claire and Rita, for as wild as I was, they were just so accepting of my big personality, right? Like not that my adopted family made me feel small, but I don't think that they really harnessed my personality the way Claire and Rita did. And, you know, I am a big personality, and I think that there have been times in my life when I've been very insecure about it. But I mean, they just have always been so wonderful and supportive and loving. They're the most affectionate human beings I have ever met in my life. And, you know, my adopted parents are just not outwardly affectionate people. They're not huggers. They're not kissers. I mean, they will, but they're not.
Yeah.
And Claire and Rita were just, and I'll tell you what, man, they instilled that in me. My poor children. Oh my God. They get smothered. I do feel bad. I don't, but I do. Like, they're at the point now where they don't even try and fight it anymore. They just let me grab their face and kiss them all the time. And I do. And I hug them. And I got that from them. I got the free will to feel comfortable in being expressive and, you know, loving and touchy-feely and just, you know, because that's who I am. I am, you know, and just feeling comfortable with that. So I think I just don't want that to go understated. Like, those 4 years with Claire and Rita were hard, and for them, they were hellish, and I'm sorry. Sort of.
This is the official apology.
Yeah, this is an apology. But they also were just so life-giving to me in so many ways, and so many ways that I was not able to recognize till much later in life. So anyways, I do just want to say that, because like, I do talk about it jokingly and we do laugh and it is funny, and it is funny. I mean, it's a wild story, but it also is just so life-giving. All that being said, I'm 10 now and they're getting rid of me.
Okay.
So I'm such a naughty kid, and they're trying to, you know, get sober and get their lives, you know, they're not together anymore. And so apparently they told me that they were going to send me to the sheriff's youth ranch. And I was really excited about that because they had horses and animals. Now, anybody who knows me in my adult life knows that that sounds like hell on earth for me. This same friend that connected us, like I go to her house and her dog jumps on me and she's like, you know, she doesn't want you to touch her. Like truly, like I just am not an animal person, like the thought of being with horses. Oh God. So anyways, thank God that didn't pan out. But anyways, so they called. So I guess behind the scenes, before I even knew this, they had called my parents up here, the ones that wanted to adopt me when I was 6. So Paul and Donna Ross, the Rosses. And they called them and they said, listen, I'm Laurel now. Laurel is just too much. We can't handle her. We don't want her basically. And we're going to put her back in the system if you guys aren't taking her. So I guess my mom, was just like, no, don't do anything. Let me talk to the family. And I guess she went and talked to like my dad and my 2 sisters and I guess called Claire and Rita back and was like, we want her back. It was the worst thing ever, letting her go, whatever. So also in that 4-year period, remember how Glow didn't want to sign the papers, right? So I maybe saw her 3 times. Chloe and I would like come home from school and Glow would be there and we'd be like, oh, Glow's here. And then like 3 days later, we'd come home from school and like, she'd be gone. And like, that was normal. And just like, oh, Glow visit.
And you knew she was your mom?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That was
I've always known,
okay.
yeah. I've always known she was my biological mom, but like she's just always been Glow.
Yeah.
I've never called her mom. And I also want to say that like, I have zero animosity towards Glow.
Wow.
I understand why she did what she did. I like having had multiple interactions with her, in my adult life and like being really seeing her for who she is. It's like, I'm not mad at you. I feel sad that like, this is your life. Yeah. And I appreciate the fact that you recognized your own inability to parent and you wanted what's best for me. Like truly, I don't really feel the need to have a strong relationship with her. Like I feel like Chloe still has more of a relationship with her than I do, but I also was adopted into this family and had this like support system and, quote unquote, a mom. And so I don't have any animosity towards Glow. I'm not mad about it. She's just Glow. It's funny. I don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah.
Like she's just Glow. You're just Glow in my life. Like Claire and Rita are just Claire and Rita. And they're my moms, sort of. Yes. But like, they're just Claire and Rita. Like, I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like some people just have a name in your life and like that's enough.
Yeah.
You're just Glow. You
not a
gave me
position.
birth. Yeah.
Sure.
You don't need a position. You're just Glow.
Right.
Whatever. So, and she knows that. We just have, it's a very, I think, honest understanding of what
Good. Yeah.
the situation is. So anyways, another one of those things that happened in my life that I didn't really realize how effed up it is until I was an adult. I censored myself for you. I just want you to know.
Don't censor for me.
In case my kids are listening.
Well, there you go. That's a good enough reason. I can put the parental advisory sticker on for your episode.
No, I can keep it PG-13. So Claire and Rita took me out to dinner. In Florida, there's this restaurant called the Colonnade. It's funny the weird details you remember in your life, right? And I remember this restaurant like yesterday, and it was my favorite restaurant to go to. It was like seafood restaurant on the water. It's called the Colonnade. And they took me there and they were like, basically, my memory is we can't keep you anymore. You're going back to the Rosses. And I think that they tried to really sell me on like, you're going back to the Rosses. Like, this is your family. And I remember just being devastated, and I feel like I just always wanted to be wherever I was. Right? Like I didn't have a longing to be with the Rosses because this was my family now.
Yeah.
And, and like once I was adopted with the Rosses, I didn't have a longing to be back with Chloe and Claire and Rita because this was my family now. And I just sort of accepted my new reality every time. But I remember being pissed. And when they were up here in October, I told them how mad I was that they ruined that restaurant for me. Like I live in Florida and I'm never going to go again. But I was pissed at the time. I'm like, damn it, you ruined this restaurant. So this is such a weird thing to say how it happened. And maybe it's just weird for me. So you can tell me what you think. But on Mother's Day weekend, I was 10 years old. Glow, who lived in Virginia, drove down from Virginia to Florida. She picked me up, drove me up to Virginia. She was living. It was a Friday, May 8th, and took me out to the store and bought me a coffee mug that said Bestest Mommy on it for me to give to Donna, who Paul and Donna drove down from Pennsylvania to Virginia and literally picked me up from Glow when I was 10 years old. And I had this coffee cup that said Bestest Mommy on it for my biological mom to give to my soon-to-be adopted mom.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I just was reflecting on this a few years back, being like, so when I was 10, my biological mom was like, here you go. Here's your new family.
Yeah. And we're
Call
going to give
me
them
in 8 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just when I really let myself think about it, I'm like, so that's not normal.
Right. You are correct.
Yeah. I thought this was normal. Yet another pilgrimage in my life. And it's so funny. You know how I describe my life? And someday I'm going to write a piece on this. I feel like it's been developing in my head for a long time. But my life, I feel like, is just a series of pendulum swings, right? So I went from the Rosses when I was 6, which is truly this right-wing Christian conservative family, to hey, now I live in Florida overnight with these people I didn't know who happen to be incredibly liberal and gay and, just totally polar opposite. And then 4 years later, I'm like, now the pendulum's going to swing back. And now I'm back in my Christian right-wing conservative home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes I look at my life as this extremes. It's just really how it feels. So in case you're wondering, politically, I'm very much in the middle.
The middle sounds like a nice place for you.
Yeah, seriously. So I came up here May 8th. That's my gotcha day, if you will. And my parents, so I have Paul and Donna are my adopted parents. They have their own biological daughter, Jody. And then they adopted another girl, Tabitha. So Jody's 5 years older than me. Tabitha is 3 years younger than me.
So all children were adopted?
No, Jody's their biological.
Oh, I'm
so
sorry.
Jody, yeah,
Okay.
So Jody's their biological, and then Tabitha and I are adopted. So, yeah, so now I'm back up in Pennsylvania. My parents, I remember, it's funny what I remember from when I was 6, right? So there was 2 people specifically, apart from my immediate family, that I remembered. And I came back Friday night, May 8th. And again, just nobody allows for transitions in my life. So I came back Friday, and Saturday we went to a family party.
Oh,
and
my.
I very distinctly remember this. It was at my Uncle Ed's house, my mom's brother, and the whole family was going to be there. My mom's whole side, who we were close with. We spent a lot of time. I mean, both our families are close, but spent a lot of time with my mom's side of the family. And before we went, my mom pulled out a photo album. I distinctly remember this. It was showing me pictures and so this person will be there. Do you remember them? And do you remember them?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was a quiz. But the only 2 people I really remembered from when I was 6 was my grandma, my dad's mom, my mom Ross. And she and I had the same birthday, June 1st. Her name was June. And she was just awesome. I mean, I truly, anybody born on June 1st is awesome. It's a thing. I'm obsessed with my birthday and June 1st, but she was really a wonderful human being. And so I remembered her. And then I remembered my cousin Jill, and actually her sister too, Jack and Jill. I said that correctly, Jill and Jacqueline. Jack and Jill. And growing up, our moms are sisters, and we just grew up together. And we grew up together, when I was 6. And then when I came back as Laurel, we just grew up together, spent a ton of time together. And that's who I remembered. And I remember they looked like twins. They were 2 years apart, but they looked identical, Jill and Jacqueline. And I remember, how fucked up is this too? We walk in, right, to this party. I've been home, quote unquote, 24 hours. And Jill and Jacqueline walk up, and my mom's like, okay, now which one's which?
Oh, my gosh.
50-50 chance of getting it right. Oh my God, what is pop quiz?
Yeah,
truly. This is, I think I got it right. Oh God, I hope I did. But yeah, so then I spent, the next, maybe whatever, in this adopted family. It was great. In a lot of ways, it was great. In a lot of ways, it was really tense. But I was so happy to be in an adopted home. I remember really struggling with feeling like I had to forget about the Florida family. I still kept in touch with Chloe distantly, but I just remember feeling like I had to have this loyalty or this allegiance
Oh, interesting.
to my new adopted family. You know, I remember going to church and learning that like being gay was bad, right? So then like also trying to reconcile that. And like really, I spent a lot of years trying to ignore or forget about, you know, Claire and Rita and Chloe, but not as much, you know. But it was hard. It was like a hard transition to make. Like I said, like wherever I was fully in. I was like loyal. One of the things I remember, this one really breaks my heart, is, and again, it's so funny how many things, you know, as an adult when you reflect back. But I took this class years ago, and the person teaching the class talked about vows we make to ourselves and how we, you know, live and die according to some of those. And I just had this moment where I remember a vow I made to myself and how that affected the next, you know, 20 years of my life. And when I lived in Florida, I had these like psychosomatic allergies. So I was like allergic to like sugar and corn syrup and things like that. Like in hindsight, I think they ended up being more psychosomatic than they were anything else. But I don't know if I've ever even told my parents this story, but they picked me up from Glow, and naturally, what do? You take your new child out for ice cream. So they were like, we pull into this Dairy Queen, and they didn't know what my allergies were at the time. I knew. And they looked at me and they were like, you can have ice cream, right? And Jen, I knew I could not have ice cream. I knew eating that ice cream was going to destroy me.
Okay.
In that moment, I distinctly remember making a vow to myself that I'm just going to say yes. Like, I cannot risk losing this family again. And I like distinctly remember making a vow to myself, like, just say yes, Laurel, just say yes. And I was like, yeah, I can totally eat this. And like, I just think that for a long time in my life, I just operated out of that place, especially with my dad. So I feel like, you know, when I got adopted, when I was almost 11, right? It's like the first time I had a strong male influence in my life. And man, did I take to that like a duck to water, you know? And I could have said I wanted to do X and he'd be like, I think you should do Y. That was it. I did Y. I mean, and I truly for a long time, like that is what I operated out of. Just that sort of vow to like, I guess ultimately to be a people pleaser, right? Like how do you not be a people pleaser in that situation, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like you just want to be wanted.
Accepted. Yeah.
So I lived with the Rosses till I was, 18, 19, went to college. It was bumpy, but I don't know that that's worth getting into.
Yeah.
Right. And then 19 years old, I went to college. I remember getting in contact with Glow. It was the first time. Actually, it wasn't the first time. Shortly after I'd been adopted, my parents were out and Glow called and I was home and I picked up the phone and she was like, hey, I'm going to be in town. I can't wait to see you. And like, to me, this was normal, right?
Yeah.
Like so I was so excited, right? And so my parents came home from wherever they were at and they were like, guess what? I was like, Glow called. She's coming to town. I can't wait to see her. And my dad looked at me and he's like, you can't see her. And I was like, what? And he's like, absolutely not. And I just remember looking at my mom. I don't know why she was the person who took it on. And I was like, I hate you. And I stormed away. And I remember getting into a lot of trouble for saying that. And really, in hindsight, I should not have gotten in trouble for that. There should have been some
Understanding,
some insight there.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I very distinctly remember Glow being in town and not being able to see her and being crushed by that. Yeah. And again, I think that's probably why I felt such a loyalty to these people, I remember when I was 16, I came downstairs, I was talking to my dad. And you have to understand, my dad really was like my person. Like he had 3 girls, but I'm self-professed the favorite. And I am the favorite. But we just had a great relationship. And not that I didn't have a good relationship with my mom, but she was the one I picked on. She was the one I wanted to be loved by my dad. Mm-hmm. And I was, but I would have walked across fire for his love and acceptance. And I don't know if I can explain it other than the fact that he was a strong man in my life. And he was a good man. He passed away a couple years ago, and he really was a great guy. But when I was 16, I came downstairs and I was like, oh, guess what? I was like, so excited. It's such a big day. And he's like, I know, you're 16, you get your license. And I was like, no. I was like, this is the longest place I've ever been in one place in my life, the longest time. And he was like, oh. And I just, like, most kids at 16 are like, I can't wait to drive. And I'm like, guess what? I've been here for 5 years.
Wow. Wow.
We should celebrate. But he didn't celebrate the way I celebrated. Just so we're clear. I don't think anybody celebrates stuff the way I celebrate. But yeah. So then I feel like, from that point on, I did everything I was supposed to the way you were supposed to, right? I went to school. I got good grades. I don't want to get into my older sister because I feel like that's opening a whole nother can of worms. But, she was one of those people that sort of did everything your parents told you not to do.
Okay.
So I watched that and I was like, wow, that's not winning you any affection and points. So I'm going to do it this way. And I was. I mean, truly, whether it's from, watching her, and all the trouble she got herself in, or whether it was just that people pleaser in me. But I mean, I went to school, I got good grades, I went to college. I didn't know what the hell I was going for, but I went because my dad one time said to me, you're going to be the only second person in our entire family who went to college. That was it. I went to college,
Yeah.
because he said that.
Yeah. And this is, when you're talking about your older sister, this is Jody, right?
Yeah.
Not Chloe.
No, Jody. So Chloe doesn't really, I don't say she doesn't want to re-enter the picture, but like we didn't really, I think, have a relationship again until I was older.
Okay.
And I think just because you're a teen, first of all, there's no phones.
Right.
There's no social media.
Right.
There's no easy connection. We would write letters. She's a beautiful letter writer. She will sit with you for 4 hours and say 3 words. And you're like, God, you must hate me. And then she'll write you this letter that was just bring you to tears.
Yeah.
It's just who she is. Right. And
well, and I mean, to your point earlier, you kind of just were who you were in whatever setting that you were in. So I feel like it was probably pretty easy just because of how many times you had to do it before. You were just like, okay, well, like, not anything against Chloe, but I'm not with her anymore.
Yeah.
I'm with my other family.
Exactly. And my parents, I would say, did a fair job of maintaining contact. Like they would bring her up for Christmas. One year, I really wanted a new chair this is such a silly story. You remember silly stuff, right? And for Christmas, I wanted a new cool chair for my room. I just wanted this chair. And so Christmas that morning, my mom was like, oh, your dad went out to get another present. He'll be back. And so I come downstairs like 2 hours later and they were like, look at this. Look at your Christmas present. And Chloe is sitting in this new chair. And I was like, look at the chair. And I was like, oh, Chloe's here too. Like I was so excited about this stupid chair. And like they were so excited to surprise me with Chloe. And I was like, I'm sorry, can you get up so I can sit in this chair?
And then I'll give you up.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know if she remembers that, but I very vividly remember being like, oh, hey, so about that chair. Like, you know what I mean? So I feel like I appreciate my parents, like, trying to keep that contact because I don't know that I was trying to.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Chloe was. I don't remember. But, kids these days, it's a lot easier to keep in contact with people.
Yes.
God, I sound old. But
just when you said kids these days.
Kids these days. Doug, now it, these kids. So yeah, I did everything your parents told you to do, right? I went to school. I went to college. I was very involved in church. I was very involved in the youth group. I mean, I was exactly who your parents wanted you to be, which is so funny because I was such a hellion in Florida, right? And I remember my dad saying to me one time, this is another one of those things where he's like, you know what? He's like, when we got you, Claire and Rita kept talking about how difficult you were. And he's like, we have just been sitting here waiting for the other shoe to fall. And it never did. And I was like, I think that was a compliment. But truly, like, it just goes to show, like, I needed boundaries.
Yes.
I wanted boundaries. I wanted a family. I wanted a traditional family. Whether I realized it or not, I wanted a mom and I wanted a dad. Just what I wanted. And once I got it, and there were rules, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and dinner was on the table every night at 6, and I knew what to expect, and I knew, does that make sense? So, like,
Yeah.
to me, like, that's what I wanted. That's what I needed in life. Okay. So anyways, I went to college, and I adhered to the whole, like, I don't know if you've heard this, like, ring by spring, right? You're supposed to, like, go to college and, like, find your husband. So I did, sort of. So I met this guy, Alan, actually when I was in the youth group, and he was helping out as a youth leader, but it wasn't scandalous or salacious. We were just friends.
Okay.
And we were sort of friends for like 7 years, but never in the same place in life. Like age will do that. We're 7 years apart.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
So like location wise, but just never, like, I was in college and he was working. And when he was in college, I was in diapers. Just kidding. I was in high school, but he's an old man. So anyway.
It wasn't scandalous, though.
No, nothing scandalous. They're just friends. So anyways, we started dating my senior year of college, and he pursued me for a while, and I was like, no, I'm not interested. I'm not interested. And then it sort of got to this point where he was like, if we don't date, I don't think we can be friends. And I was like, all right, let's try it. And like, we started dating in December, got engaged in March, and married in August.
Oh my gosh.
Some would say I'm impulsive at times. And no, neither of my daughters or sons can pull that crap. Just so we're clear.
You're like, ring by spring. Got it.
Yeah, nailed it. Listen, I set a goal.
Also married by summer. What's up?
That's right. And, he's 7 years older than me. And listen, he is a wonderful human being. I love him to death. But he was also this like pinnacle of stability for me. He was stable. He had a good job. He loved Jesus. He was just a good guy. He was just a really good guy. And I loved that. You know what I mean? I craved that. I loved that. And so we got hitched. And we had a great marriage while it was a great marriage, truly. I mean, I'm amazed at all of these people that get divorced and like turn on their spouse. And like, at some point you loved them, right? Like you will never catch me saying anything other than that. I adored Alan. I loved him. I adored him. It was so funny because we're just such different people that I was always amazed at how many people would be like, you and Alan? You're like, yeah. Like, but it worked.
Yeah.
It worked really well for a long time. We had these 4 kids. I would have had more, but he cut me off. It's true. So I have 4 kids in 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah. It was busy. And and it was awesome. And we had this awesome, perfect family. Like we really did, Jen. I could just cry talking about it and thinking about it because we just had this sweet little 6 of us. And then when I was 34, 35-ish, let's say, I sort of had this falling out with my parents at the hands of my older sister. And again, without going into the details, it sort of left my parents picking sides, even though I don't think they had to pick sides. And they picked my older sister. And we didn't talk for like a year. And something happened in me when that happened. Now, I had spent my whole life up until that point sort of telling the story like I'm telling you. Like I was like entertaining at a dinner party, right? Like I've always been able to see the humor in it. And when I had that falling out with my parents, the only way I can describe it was like a dam broke inside of me. And a dam that I had no idea existed. So I have learned that I had a traumatic childhood. This is just so I learned this at like 35. But like truly.
Yeah.
Like when I say I just thought these things are normal, like I truly thought these things are normal. Turns out they're not.
And it's not like, you hit college and heard other stories from people and were like, oh, wow, you were 34, 35 before.
And I think what really did it was when I had that falling out with my parents.
Yeah.
I think that I realized that the day I made that vow to myself at 10 years old, that I was going to do everything in my power to keep these parents, right? And I held up my end of the vow. I held it up beautifully. I did everything right.
Yep.
Okay? Like everything right. I mean, I had a couple of fallouts here and there, but for the most part,
Yeah.
I nailed it. I mean, I nailed it. And then we had this falling out, and it felt like they turned their back on me. And there's a logical part of me that understands what happened, because my older sister is one of those people that's a lot easier to just align with than go up against, right? And again, I'm trying not to delve into that. But on the other hand, like, you don't have to pick a side, right? And I just felt like I had done all of these things and I still lost. And when I tell you this dam broke, I didn't know what was going on. I had no idea what was happening. All I knew was I was crying. I cried on and off for like 3 weeks straight. I'm not even exaggerating. And like, I'm a crier, but I'm not a crier, right? And I didn't know what the hell was happening in my life. All I knew was something changed and I couldn't put it back. So I would say I spent the next year of my life running from whatever this was inside of me. And, I would go out drinking when I shouldn't be. And I just wasn't living my life the way I should be. I just was trying to find any vice to sort of satiate whatever that sadness was I was feeling. I just wanted to make it go away. And I don't know if you know what the Enneagram is, but I'm a 7 and I don't do negative feelings, right? Like, I will never remember anything in anything but a positive light, which is unhealthy, I'm learning. But so I had this deep, deep well of sadness that I didn't know what to do with. So I'd say after about a year, things came to a head, and Alan and I decided to try and find a counselor. And by way of a couple of different people, I landed with this counselor named Andrea, and she was God's gift to me. And I started seeing her, and quite honestly, I couldn't afford to see her. And so she took me on for free for like 2.5 years. I think I saw her.
Wow.
And I learned that I had a lot of trauma in my life. And I don't think I ever would have called it that. But once I was able to frame it like that, I was like, oh, this isn't normal. Oh, there's something to this. And we spent like 2.5 years working through this. Now, I would say the most crushing thing in all of this to me is how I feel like my marriage was the collateral damage for all of this trauma that I had never dealt with, right? I wanted so badly to be able to like work through this stuff in my marriage, and I just couldn't. And I don't know how else to explain that other than the fact that like I had never lived on my own in my entire life. I spent my entire life being this huge people pleaser. And I just felt like I had no idea who I was. I had no idea my own opinions. I remember in the confines of my marriage, I would say to Alan, like, what do you think about this? And he'd be like, X, Y, and Z. And I'd be like, yeah, that's what I think about it too. Like, truly. And I don't know if that comes from growing up in like the evangelical church, where it's like, he's the head of the house and I'm supposed to submit to him. And anybody who knows this Laurel is like, she isn't submitting to anybody. But I did. I mean, when I tell you I played the part, Jen, I played the part.
Yeah.
I mean, I pushed back a lot with Alan, but at the end of the day, like, we worked well together, but I understood the hierarchy.
Yeah.
Quote unquote,
Yes. Quotes.
Yes. But I just realized that I needed to figure out who I was, this like authentic version of myself. And I I just couldn't do it in the confines of my marriage. And Andrea was awesome because she was not pro-divorce in any capacity. And I think she tried very hard to help me keep my marriage together. But I think she also very much understood what needed to happen. And so I moved out with 4 kids for the first time in my life. I lived on my own and I hustled really hard. And I just sort of figured out who I was. I remember doing a counseling session one time. Chloe and Claire and Rita were in town. And so they came with me and we did this 2-hour session with Andrea. And I remember all 3 of them were like, we knew this day was going to come. And I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, like you don't get to go through all the stuff you've been through and like come out unscathed. And I was like, well, like a little heads up would have been nice. Like, but you know, it was almost validating that all of these people in my life also validated the fact that like, hey, yeah, these were traumatic experiences. And hey, yeah, this breakdown, this whatever I was having, you know, was valid. Right. And I don't know why we seek such validation in life, but to me, I needed that. I needed to know that like I wasn't going crazy and that like I wasn't making a mountain out of a molehill. Right. Cause like I had it been like, oh yeah, I grew up in foster care. Oh yeah, I moved when I was 6, got uprooted overnight. Like, yeah. But I mean, just the validation from some of the most important people in my life.
Oh, it's huge.
The validation from Alan. I knew this was going to get me. We, damn it. Sorry.
Okay. Don't apologize.
I feel like I broke his heart. Unintentionally, if that counts for anything.
Yep.
You know, we have this really beautiful relationship. I think it's beautiful. I think, I think he would agree. And I think the reason we have it is because he is so gracious and able to look at the life and know that like I didn't end our marriage because I didn't love him. I ended our marriage because I didn't know how to work through the trauma that I discovered within those confines. And we've talked about it so many times. And I can't tell you how many times Jen, I said to Alan, I'm like, why don't you hate me? Like, you should hate me. I took our fairy tale life and I turned it upside down. And, you know, nobody goes into marriage hoping to get divorced, right?
Yes.
You know, like, well, I'm going to do this until I'm not. Like, no, like that's not, I mean, I sure as hell didn't. Maybe people do.
I don't know anybody that does that.
You know, and so I feel bad because I often feel like Alan and our marriage paid the price that like wasn't his to pay. Like he paid the price and our marriage and our family paid the price for trauma that wasn't. But yeah, I mean, I feel like we got divorced and we have just developed this beautiful friendship. I think we co-parent really, really well. And I'm thankful for that. I have these 4 unbelievable kids. I have these 4, I think what I'm most surprised about is I have these 4 unbelievably secure kids.
Wow.
Like they are secure in who they are. They are secure in their family. I don't know how we created that. It was almost like everything I wanted. Everything I wanted in a mom. Yeah. I became. Like I am the mom to my kids that I always wanted. And I hate that divorce is part of their story. I truly, it kills me. But I hope too that someday they can like recognize that. I hope that someday I come across, especially with my daughters, as like a strong woman. And not that I think getting divorced equals a strong woman, right? But I think becoming the person that you fully want to be, deserve to be, like living your most authentic self. Yeah. I think is strength. And that's what I hope I can like pass along to them. And anybody who knows my oldest knows that she took that gene and ran with it.
Fantastic. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's the story.
I mean, wow. I've never met Alan, but I'm a fan of Alan. I'm just like thinking about how unbelievable it is, and truly like just how much God covered you with him, in that Alan didn't add to your trauma, right? Alan didn't become a part of your trauma. And though it's not at all easy, I mean, you guys have a beautiful relationship now. And I'm sure while he has suffered, he has been able to see the value of keeping the relationship what it can be, right? And I think as far as divorce goes, I think it's naive to say that it's not sometimes necessary. But as far as divorce goes, I think your family is emulating love within that context as much as humanly possible.
It is true. And I know that like everybody is like, my kids are awesome and they're resilient. And they are. I mean, they all have gone through different periods where they've needed some counseling and they've needed to work through things, and rightfully so. But they truly have, we have worked very hard to just maintain just an open, fluid line of communication and love and transparency, for sure. And just going back to that comment about divorce, like it's really hard to get divorced when you grow up in an evangelical church too.
Yes.
And I think the stigma that I struggled with for years, I mean, years, and even still, I think that I have times of guilt. I have times when I'm with people and I'm like, yeah, I'm divorced. You know what I mean? Like you whisper, like there's almost a shame that is tied to it. And I don't know if that's a cultural shame. I don't know if that's in the context of the church shame, but it was something that I wrestled with. So like here I'm dealing with all of this trauma finally. And then on top of it, the shame and guilt of also getting divorced. Like it just kills me that we just heap that on top of whatever people like, you don't just wake up one morning like, oh, I'm going to get divorced.
Correct.
Right. So like there's already a difficulty of whatever is causing your divorce. And then on top of it, we're just heaping shame and guilt. Like it's awful.
It is.
It's awful because nobody's trying to get divorced to begin with,
Correct.
And like, if you had asked me 10 years ago, I would have been like, oh, I'll never get divorced.
Yeah.
So again, another pendulum swing, right? I went from like being married in this evangelical church, this like Stepford wife, I mean, minus the blonde hair and the size 2 waist, to like, now I'm on my own and I'm hustling and I'm trying to make it work and I'm struggling, and but to me, that struggle was worth figuring out who I authentically was versus continuing to live as this like people pleaser, living under this vow.
Yeah.
I was dying to this 10-year-old girl who made this promise to herself, right? I was dying to that.
Yeah.
And for what?
Right. I agree with you 100%. And now, I know your story is not one of domestic violence within the context of your marriage. Thank God. But I think that especially growing up in the evangelical church, because I did as well, when you said you made our childhoods could not be more different. Let me just make that clear. Our childhoods are complete opposites.
So you had a normal childhood too?
I actually was sent on a train when I was 7, not 6. No, I grew up in a conservative evangelical church as well. And, when I was growing up, I remember being very like sold out on the tenets of the Christianity that I grew up with. And when I got married, I remember
being like, just feeling very good about myself because I had followed all the rules.
Yeah.
I did everything the right way. I was young. I was getting married. I was, before I did anything else. And I just had my whole life ahead of me. And I truly thought, like, I followed all the rules. I'm going to have a good marriage.
Mm-hmm. And
then it fell apart very quickly. And I just like wrestling with that, like what went wrong? I did everything right and everything still went wrong. And so wrestling with that was really difficult. And I relate to that part of your story because I know what that feels like specifically within the confines of evangelicalism, how much shame and how much guilt comes with that. And it's so sad because by the time I left my marriage, which again, I wasn't married for long, but the damage had been done so quickly that by the time I left my marriage, I was in a place that I felt like, all right, well, like if this means I'm going to hell, I guess I'm going to hell because I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And thinking back on that and actually making a decision within that mind frame is like, wow, that is so awful. Like nothing about that is good or okay. And thankfully I had people around me that really like walked through it with me and validated me. And I do think that that's why that was so important to your point earlier, was because I was constantly doubting myself, but not just in a way of, am I doing the right thing? But are there going to be eternal consequences for getting myself to be okay, like for healing? Are there going to be eternal? Does God hate me?
Right.
Because I have made this decision that is ultimately going to lead to a better me and a better situation. So yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things. I still absolutely believe in God, but I have really pulled away from a lot of the
same
evangelicalism because I just have seen the damage that it has done. And I've seen specifically women hold on to marriages that they shouldn't be in for the sake of their religion. And what ends up happening is there's just more trauma, and then they still end up getting that divorce anyway, just later in life.
Yeah. Or there's generational trauma.
Well, yeah, that too.
But and to that point, like it really breaks my heart because when I did finally get divorced, and I think the reason I got divorced is very different than a lot of other women, but it really broke my heart, Jen, how many women came up to me and like women you and I both know, women in the church, friends that were like, I really wish I could do that. I wish I had the means to do that. I don't know how you did that, and like that, I think if it weren't for the trauma rearing its ugly head, I would likely still be married. Right. And so I'm not saying like, oh, people should get divorced, right? I'm not advocating for divorce per se, but I also think it is heartbreaking the amount of women who came up to me and were like, I'm so jealous, or I wish I could have done that, or you know what I mean? And it just, to me, that breaks my heart because you're just going to perpetuate that with your own children. Yeah. And like, I wouldn't much rather be divorced, but like, I know that Alan and I show these kids so much love and affection that I guarantee, and it's not a contest, but I guarantee there are people out there whose kids are in families with married parents that are struggling with, you know what I mean? Yes. Like, and my kids they're just so freaking awesome. But they are, and they're just well-rounded human beings. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And I hate that divorce is part of their story, but I hate that trauma was part of my story. Yeah. And I think that nobody's going to get out of this world unscathed. Mm-hmm. Nobody, and that's just the truth. And sometimes I think the people with the greatest character probably have the most scars. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah,
I mean, and I don't want to pretend that it's all black and white either, because it's not. It's very nuanced. And, I think part of the danger is that we treat it as though it's black and white. But yeah, I mean, with anything, I agree. You're not going to get out of this life
completely unscathed. And so if you're making decisions trying to prevent, especially I guess for your kids, like, oh, well, if I don't get divorced, then or if I stay in my horrible marriage, horrible abusive marriage, at least my kids won't be from a divorced or broken home. And it's like, okay, but they're seeing you be abused. So is that better?
Right.
And I don't want to judge people's reasons for staying or leaving because, again, they're nuanced. And to treat it like you can just judge based on very limited information, I think is really foolish. But I think that especially within the context of religion, because evangelicalism isn't the only religion that is guilty of this, especially within the context of religion, it is so damaging, especially for women, to they're just trapped. The women feel like they're trapped. So we kind of gotten away from your story.
We totally got to, but I just want to say one other thing too, because I think the other thing that I really struggle with is like, I think once we get divorced, I feel like it's like the scarlet letter, right?
Yes.
Like for a long time, I was like, I'm divorced and there's something wrong with me. But I think I want to shift that narrative to be like, let's not focus on the fact that I had a divorce. Let's focus on the fact that I had 14 beautiful years and I have 4 gorgeous kids. And I also think that we just stop at the divorce, right? And like, that's it. But like, just because the marriage didn't work out, right, does not mean that it lacks value.
Yeah.
Or that it lacked value. And I don't know that you would say the same for your situation, but for my situation, like maybe I quote unquote failed in the Christian church, but like, I don't think I failed. I think that I have just changed course.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have. And that's okay.
It is okay.
It took me 5 years to say that, but that's okay.
Well, I'm proud of you.
Thanks.
Trauma is so hard because we all react to it differently, but we are always going to react in some way.
Even if it's 34 years later?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And, I do a lot of advocacy work for victims of domestic violence, and it's something that we talk about all of the time. Like, if you don't process your trauma, it is going to come out. It may not be this year. It may not be next year. It may be 10 years from now. But one day you are going to find yourself confronted with all of this trauma. And what are you going to do with it? And so it's hard because you don't know what's going to trigger it, how you're going to react to it. Yeah, it's a very amorphous, huge thing. And there's no like one prescription that works for everybody either.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you had told me that 10 years ago, I would have told you were crazy. But clearly you're not. I couldn't run from it forever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And, I'm happy with the person I am on the other side of it. So.
Absolutely. Well, and you know what? There's no judgment there either. People have to live out their story and figure things out for themselves. So I can't go around judging people on how or when they go to therapy or whatever, they live their life.
They discover that their life wasn't normal.
That too. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, I think childhood stuff too is so different because it is so, whatever you grow up with is so normalized for you. Mm-hmm. There is nothing for you to say that your life is different in some big way from everybody else. And so how are you supposed to navigate yourself into quote unquote getting help when there's nothing about your situation that's abnormal to you?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and normal, I think too, is a scale, right? Like again, it's not black and white. It's nuanced. There's almost nothing in this world is. So not to say that your childhood was anything even close to normal. You were doing those pendulum swings. You were nowhere in the middle. But even that, you can't compare yourself to somebody next to you and say, oh, well, we had a different experience. So which one of us was not you? But
Right.
yeah. So how did you reconnect with Claire and Rita?
So I think just when I went to college, I think I just sort of reconnected with Chloe more. I remember one trip when I lived with the Rosses when I was probably like, I don't know, 13, 14, 15. And Claire, oh God, I didn't tell you this part of the story. This is so good.
Okay.
So I told you Claire and Rita split up. So then Claire married a man for 10 years.
Oh.
So I realized I was going to tell you the story and forgot that detail. So Claire married a man for 10 years. And in that time frame, I was living with the Rosses. And so they came up to visit his parents in New York. And I was, on the way in Philly. So they picked me up and I went up to New York and spent the weekend with them. So I guess that there were parts of Claire and Rita sort of intermingled throughout that time. But I very clearly remember that trip.
Mm-hmm.
Spent a whole weekend with Chloe and Claire and Rita. So Claire eventually got divorced from Rudy. And then a few years later, her and Rita got back together and they got married. And so they're together today, which makes everything normal for me again.
Yeah.
Like when they got married, I was like, yes, this is how it should be. They are Claire and Rita.
Yeah.
And then I would say like in college, like having the freedom to like hop on a flight and go down and visit Chloe, going down for her graduations and things like that. I think we just sort of reconnected. I think, when you're older and sort of have more control over that. Once I had kids too, Chloe, not that she wasn't, part of my life, but I think she loves her nieces and nephews. I mean, she really does. And I think she's come up to see them a lot. She's moved up here a couple of times for, a couple of years and then gone back down. She loves Philly. But yeah, I would say it's how we reconnected.
Does she have a family, Chloe?
She does not.
Okay.
No, she's never had kids. She's got her boyfriend who is just so wonderful. We love
good.
him. They've
I
been
wasn't
together
sure
for a
where
long
that
time.
was going.
Yeah, no.
Okay, good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad she has wonderful in her life as well.
She does have a wonderful life. And she lives 5 minutes from Claire and Rita. So that's also
fantastic.
wonderful.
Yeah.
So.
It's so special that you guys never truly lost each other,
I know.
but then we're able to reconnect. I think what amazes me so much with your story, and maybe this wasn't always the case, but there's just like no bitterness in it. And I don't know that, again, I know you said you went through your dam breaking and stuff. And so maybe there was a period of that. But even as you're living it out as a child, you just exude this welcomeness to everybody, whoever's in your path, whoever's in your life. There's just like an open arm welcome, it seems.
Yeah, I don't recall ever really being bitter. I would say when I had that falling out with my parents, I don't even know if I would use bitter. I was devastated.
Yeah.
I was devastated. I think that would be the correct word. But I don't do well holding on to anger. Even when I do get angry, I think I have like a burst of anger. And then it's funny because before I got married to Alan, my dad took him out and they were having this like conversation about me. And my dad said to Alan, he's like, one of the great things about Laurel is that like she can get upset and angry, but like 5 minutes later, she's your best friend again. Right. And it's so true. So Alan's like, oh, this is going to be great. So in our marriage, we get into our first fight and we get in this fight. And then like 5 minutes later, I'm like, all right, you want to go do something? And he's like, no. And I don't think he realized he's a stewer. He like stews in his anger. He's got to like work there to process it. And I'm like, no, really, like we're good now. Like, don't you want to go? Don't you want to go? Ha, ha, ha. And he's like, no, I'm still angry. So this thing that he thought would be great, like backfired because he does not recover from that emotion as quickly as I do. I'm kind of like Dory too. Okay. Dory's the one that always forgets stuff, right? So this is me. I am a huge benefit of the doubt giver and probably to my own detriment. I guarantee that I have been, and I'm thinking of someone in particular, but have been burned by people more times than I should allow them. Yeah. Right. But I don't know if it's just a Dory and I just forget, or if I choose to forget, but I can't hold a grudge to save my life. Yeah. I don't have any interest in being angry. I don't. It's never been my personality. Call it Enneagram 7, call it whatever you want. I just personally think like life is just too short to hold on to that shit. It is. There's just bottom line. Like, listen, I said my piece. I'm angry. I got it out. I'm done now. Like, and I'm done. Like, and I can be your best friend 5 minutes later, but I don't know how to hold on to anger or bitterness. I don't know why people want to.
Yeah.
I had these 2 grandmoms, right? I had my mom Ross, the one I remembered from when I was 6, and then my mom's mom. And my mom Ross was she sat in the nursery at church for 30 years, right? She took care of every single baby. She just loved everybody. And then my mom's mom, who was sort of like just a crotchety, ornery old woman. And she just sort of had this smug face all the time. And my dad's mom just was always smiling. And I've distinctly noticed at my dad's mom's funeral, my Uncle Don got up as my dad's brother. And he said this quote, and I've never forgotten it. He said, before 40, you have the face you were born with. After 40, you have the face you deserve. And I have never forgotten that. And I'm like, I want to have a face where I am always smiling and I am always happy, because my mom's mom had a face that you were like, ugh, you just don't look happy in life. And my dad's mom, like, it was such a good quote for her, because she was just she's a June 1ster. I'm telling you, there's something to it. But
apparently.
So I think about that a lot. Like, just, you know what? Listen, I have been through plenty of stuff in my life, right? And I don't have time for the anger or the bitterness. I don't. What do you gain? What value does it bring to your life? I told you, I can get mad. Oh, you can piss me off. I will get mad. But like, we'll be best friends like 5 minutes later.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean,
my poor kids.
the whiplash.
Honestly, God, no, you're so right. Like in the morning, you're like, hi, just blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I hope you have such a great day. It's fine. I love you so much. Kiss, 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 smother, smother. Like, but I swear to God, if you come home and don't do your homework, like these poor children.
They're better for it. You're making them resilient.
So dread. But like, I have this like dread, but can't wait till like 20 years from now when me and my kids are all sitting around and they're talking about how I really was a mom. And I'd be like, I was so great and happy all the time. And then they start spewing these stories and I'm like, I don't think that that's accurate. I'm choosing to remember all the positive.
There you go. Hey, just stay on brand for you. Don't change now.
I think anybody who knows me, truly knows me, like, like I just am. Listen, this is so cliche, but I couldn't mean it more. Like, life is for the living, and I am here. I am here to consume experiences, and I am here to love on and consume people, and that's it, man. That's it. I don't have time for that bitterness bullshit.
Yeah. Good.
I mean, I feel like it's amazing how many people have said, like, you deserve to be angry, and like, what am I angry at?
Yeah.
Am I angry that I had a tough childhood? But like, look at where it's brought me. Yeah, we all have tough childhoods.
Yeah.
We all grew up in the 80s. It was tough in the 80s. Those metal slides, like, come on. Clarity just was pee outside. They'd be like, you can't come in till 8 o'clock tonight. Like, what do we have to pee? They're like, we live on an acre of land. Good luck. Like, come on.
Find your own way. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, I mean, I think it's an incredible gifting, actually, because
I think so too.
I don't think that people that hold on to bitterness or anger necessarily realize that they're doing it. I think that, and I think that again, there's a spectrum of that. Not everybody has to be like the biggest grudge holder to hold on to some things.
Yes.
But I think especially for people that have a really hard time letting anger go and becoming bitter or resentful, don't necessarily realize that is the life that they've resigned themselves to. And so in some ways, I think, once again, that's where therapy helps, hopefully.
Sure.
But I think it truly is a gifting for you to just be able to have that framing in your life. And I think that comes to a degree that comes from adversity. You know, I do think that there are a lot of people that have been through really tough things and they end up being people that are like, look, I'm here. I like where I am. I like who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't have time to be living in the past.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I think it's true. And I think, I think to that point, like I have moments in my life where I feel like my past does come back and show itself. And I think I almost get more frustrated than I do angry and bitter because I'm like, I thought I've dealt with you.
yes.
I put you on your shelf.
You should not be here anymore.
Yeah. But I think there's always going to be times when that's going to come back and, rear its ugly head. And I think, to your point, I think that's where counseling comes in. I think that's where like a good support system comes in and just being able to be honest and vulnerable.
Yeah.
Which has been a struggle for me, but I'm getting there.
I mean, you did amazing.
No,
this
thanks.
is fantastic. You just kept going, and I was like, "Oh wow,
I'm sorry.
Oh wow, no,
Oh, okay.
no." I'm just like, I'm waiting because you told me before we started you're probably gonna have to ask me questions, and I'm like, all right, be prepared to try to like coax some things out. And then she just went, and I was like, yes, keep going.
But I didn't know if you needed any clarification questions. You sometimes need like a flow chart.
Yeah. I mean, sister, mom.
It's a lot of characters. Yeah.
Maybe we can do it like they do in like the fantasy novels. We'll put a map at the beginning
Seriously.
of the book.
I did one time have a friend of mine who's like a counselor, like do one of those. Is it a genogram? Is that what it's called? Or they like map out your family?
Yeah.
And it was extensive. I was like, I don't know what I'm looking at. This looks confusing.
Yeah, right. I like it. I definitely think it should be a part of your book. So
I know. Then it's funny. Every time I tell people my story, I always get the exact same two comments. They either say, "How'd you turn out so normal?" and "You should write a book."
Yeah.
So
well, and maybe your writing workshop that you were forced to attend will be something that you are so thankful for.
Yeah. Like I said, I mean, that piece I wrote was just so cathartic.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I had no idea that was in there. That, and then I had a really good friend one time. She has an adopted daughter, and she turned me on to this website called dearadoption.com. And it was people writing to adoption like it was a person and like telling their story. So I started like reading these, and there's a lot of really angry adoptees out there, right? And rightfully so. I'm not going to tell anybody how they need to feel because I've definitely gone through the spectrum of feelings on being adopted. Sure, like, oh, you're supposed to be this grateful adoptee, and also like, this sucks. I don't have roots, and whatever. But I was reading these stories, and I was like, man, none of these align with me. So one day I sat down and I was like, all right, Dear Adoption, and I wrote this whole piece, and I sent it in, and they like published it on the website, and
Wow.
I'll send it to you. But yeah, just again, like just finding those sort of prompts almost that like pour that out of me
Yeah.
is so interesting to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess to that point, I mean, I kind of feel like I know what direction you would probably go here, but adoption in general, it is such a contentious subject. And I mean, there's a lot of, again, layers there, nuances, and you have intercontinental adoption
Sure.
and all of that kind of thing. So I guess like, how do you feel about the conversations around adoption? I know that's a very big question, so take it however you want to take it.
How do I feel about the conversations about adoption?
Yeah, not necessarily about like adoptees in their experience, but there's been a larger conversation around like the ethics of adoption in general. And like, obviously it's such a big part of your story. And I have one of my best friends since third grade is adopted, and she has she's very much like you in that, I mean, she didn't have the trauma in her past, but as far as her adoption goes, like she has a very good relationship with her family, and she doesn't really have anything that was like, well, my adoption was trauma. Her sister, that is not her biological sister, but is another adopted sister, has the exact opposite. And so I think it's very interesting how people can kind of walk through a similar experience and come out with different outcomes or feelings about it. So,
yeah, I mean, it's interesting because without going into detail about Tabitha's story at all, I would say that, my younger sister's also adopted. She's lived with my parents since she was 2 days old, but she's also biracial. And so she has a very different experience, even though we both grew up in the same house. Now, I would say, in a lot of ways, has negative feelings towards adoption, right? Which you would look at that and go, that's so wild. You've lived with the same parents since you were 2 days old. And then you have me who, moved around a ridiculous amount. And I'm sort of like, yeah, it is what it is, But I also think that I do think like what people don't understand is like every adoption is so unique. And I know it doesn't always look that way, but it is. But like you look at my family, right? And like I was adopted when I was 11. I was physically handed over at 10 years old from my biological mom, but I also have always known my biological mom. So like I don't have that mystery. You've got people who are adopted who have these closed adoptions or whatever, who never, ever get to know who their birth parents are. And that's its own wound and its own hole that is left. And you have people that are doing the open adoption route who are like, you're my adopted parents, you're my biological parents. Like, why wouldn't you enjoy your biological parents more? Because they get to just pop in your life and have fun with you. And the adopted parents are in the trenches with you constantly, right? And how do you reconcile that? So I feel like I think naively 20 years ago, I would have been like, I'm just so grateful that I was adopted because that is the narrative that I am supposed to adopt. Pun intended. But truly, you grow up being like, you should be so thankful you're adopted. Yeah. And the truth is, on some level, I am thankful. The family I ended up with, not just my immediate family, the extended family, the opportunities I was given in my adopted family. Like, truly, I was adopted with a silver spoon in my mouth. Truly, my dad was a jeweler. But
okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so, and all of my foster care experiences, to my recollection, were mostly positive, right? Yeah. So it's just hard, but like but you should look at my story and I should come out of this with all of these issues and hate adoption, but I don't, and I don't know. I think it's so unique. I think reading that dearadoption.com, like realizing that everybody has such different experiences, such different feelings. I will say that like, and we were talking about this before the podcast started, but like I struggle with like attachment, and I didn't when I was married. When I got married to Alan, I was like all in, right? I just wanted that stability. I wanted that. But post-divorce, I have noticed in relationships that I have a limited level of vulnerability and I have a limited ability to attach. And it is something that I've started working on. But I would say, apart from my 4 children and my ex-husband, like my attachment is sort of a struggle. And I would attribute that to, I was 16 before I was attached for more than 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there are definitely things, but I'm not against adoption. I'm not against international adoption. I personally think like there are 500,000 domestic adoptees. Like I'd like to see us adopt a lot of them, but I think people just need to be tender to the idea of adoption. I think that especially, I'm totally picking on the evangelical church, but especially in the evangelical church, we're coming across as like, we are saviors. Right?
Yes.
Like you are my savior. You should be careful because I came in and rescued you. And that is such bullshit. Yeah. And I have zero tolerance for that mentality.
Right.
Right. I think it's just such a complex and tender issue. And I think understanding that like my experience with adoption is my experience with adoption. And just because I don't hate the fact that I was adopted or I don't resent it doesn't mean that somebody else doesn't. And that's not to say that their feelings aren't valid.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a black and white issue. I think people want to make it a black and white issue, and it's anything but a black and white issue. I think the conversation around adoption has evolved tremendously, and I'm thankful for that. I think 20, 30 years ago, you got adopted, closed, that's it, done. And I think that there's so much more open conversation, counseling for adoptees. It's just Like, think about it. Think about the 2 transitions I had. Hell, I went to Florida when I was 6, came back when I was 10, 0 counseling.
Yeah.
None. In either of those situations.
Yeah.
And then I got in trouble for telling somebody I hated them because I had no idea what the hell I was feeling.
Right.
You know? So I think it's just, it's a tender issue.
Yeah.
And I encourage people to just approach it with just an openness and a tenderness, because you're not anybody's savior.
Yeah. Truly. No, I think it's a incredibly important point. And, the value made to yourself, I think, speaks to that as well. Even if your parents never made you feel like that, just this inherent feeling like you owe your parents, whereas biological children aren't necessarily made to feel that way. Like your existence isn't, you don't have to thank your parents for your existence.
Right.
But we don't treat adoptees like that all of the time.
What a great point.
It's horrible. Yeah.
What a great point. You're absolutely right on that. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, again, I think this episode, if I named my episodes, I think this would just be called like gray, because we just keep talking about, but I believe so intensely that life happens in the gray. It's all,
sure.
There are very, very few things in life that are black and white. And, when we try to treat it like it's a one size fits all, or that there is no complexities within an issue, that's how we get to places where we start thinking we're saving other people.
Yeah.
And, it's not how we should be thinking about other people.
It's not healthy. It's not healthy for either party.
No.
Mm-mm. So.
No. Well, I do have a question that I ask. Do you know what I'm going to ask? Mm-hmm. Okay. Have you thought about it?
I have.
Oh, okay. So, through the lens of your experience, what does compassion mean to you?
Can you repeat the question? I always joke that I'm not a very compassionate person. Like, if you ask my kids, like, if they fall down, I'm like, get up, you're fine. But I think that I'm compassionate when it's important. And I think when it is important is in approaching other people. Like, I guarantee the one time you and I hung out, right? We met one time. We had a couple of drinks at Estrella. And I'm sure that I came across as this like happy, bubbly, perky, really funny person. And you had no idea that my childhood was riddled with trauma, right? And most people who meet me, I guarantee if this episode comes out and people at work and people who know me listen to it, they're going to be like, oh, right? Because you have no idea what people's lives look like. You have no idea what people have gone through. You could think that you have a shared experience with somebody and you have a totally different takeaway from it, right? And so I think compassion for me looks at, sort of like you said, welcoming everybody with open arms. We all have a story. Some of us wear them on our sleeve and some of us don't. But we all have a story. Taking time to listen to people's stories. But even if you don't take time to listen to people's, treating people, like you just have no idea what people have been through. You have no idea. And I think compassion looks like treating everybody with like dignity and love and just an openness, because man, life is hard. Life is hard. And, you just have no idea. And I think just treating people that way. I mean, I try so hard to welcome everybody into my life, just arms wide open, exactly who you are and where you're at in life. That's it. I think that if we could all just treat people like that, Yeah. You have no idea what people have gone through in their lives. So rather than presuming to know, let's just treat people with love and compassion.
Yeah. That's a beautiful answer. And I'm reflecting on the word tenderness that you used, which I really love, and thinking about within the context of what you're saying and how much different would the world look if instead of, getting on our high horse about things on either side of the aisle of things, that
Sure.
we approached things with tenderness and respect and really just tried to view others as people that are trying their best.
Yeah. I think we all need to just be benefit of the doubt givers.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier burden to bear than bitterness and anger.
Cynical. Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Hey, if that, I mean, I think that's a level of transcendence, honestly. It's a beautiful way to live, but it's intentional for sure.
I think compassion is intentional,
Yeah.
right? Like we have to choose to be compassionate.
Yeah.
It is intentional. I think that's what life's about, living with intentionality, right?
It should be.
Should be.
Well, thank you so much for doing this and for letting us use your home and for the coffee.
Of course. Thanks for, asking the questions.
Oh, I mean, I said you were born and you went, yes, I was. And here's the story.
The world has never been the same. I promise you that.
Thank you for listening to The Human Experience. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe, share it with your friends and family, share it on social media, and rate and review it on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can also support the podcast financially by going to my website, thehxpod.com, linked in the show notes, and clicking on Donate. It takes a lot of time and resources to create this podcast, so every little bit helps. Everyone has a story, and I'd love to hear yours. So be sure to check out the show notes for more information about how to stay in touch. Do good and love well.